I asked Hasan Piker and Jonathan Greenblatt on camera if they would sit down for a conversation with each other, with me moderating. Piker said yes immediately. Wild idea, if we could broker it, would you sit down with him?
With Jonathan Greenblatt?
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to.
Okay.
I would love to have a conversation with Jonathan Greenblatt.
I'll pose the same question to him. Greenblatt was a bit more cautious.
All right, well, that's Hasan saying happy to do it. A bit more cautious is an understatement. As you're about to see, Jonathan Greenblatt had two hilarious conditions for having this conversation. Elliot, tell us all about it.
Yeah, so this is how Greenblatt, when he was asked, responded to the idea of a debate with Hasan.
We've talked a lot about Hasan Piker here. He claims he's tried to sit down with you guys and tried to talk to you.
When
you
was
said
that?
earlier, I don't know. He's claimed, that's his claim to it. Would you sit down with him? Would you sit down with him and me in a room and have a conversation?
Look, I'll sit down and talk to anyone. My only red line is if you dehumanize others.
Has he crossed that line?
Well, yeah, and saying that, Zionists, the things he said about Zionists, I think absolutely cross the line and create this space where it seems legitimate to murder Jewish people. So, if he would acknowledge the legitimacy of Zionism, the Zionists have the same right as everyone else, even people whose views we don't like, that would be an important step forward.
The offer still stands.
Now, where have we heard that before? Oh, right, Ben Shapiro has levied a very similar accusation against Hasan, and here is what we mean.
Piker himself is suggesting that he is not anti-Semitic, right? He is just anti-Zionist. Now, as I've mentioned before, this is a distinction without any practical difference. If you are calling for the destruction of the Jewish state, which exists in the here and now, you're not having a prospective conversation in 1920 about whether there ought to be a Jewish state in the Middle East or not. It exists. It's been existing for 80 years. You're not calling for the destruction of Pakistan, a Muslim-only state. You're not calling for the destruction of any of the dozens of other states around the world. You're only calling for the destruction of the Jewish state, which would entail the murder of millions of Jews.
Yeah, you just happen to be critical of this nation that your tax dollars go to fund constantly. So also one last thing, those clips of Greenblatt and Hasan were from a USA Today special feature on anti-Semitism, and here's how that feature was framed. So Nick Fuentes to Hasan Piker, click by click, anti-Semitism goes mainstream. Now, ironically, Hasan called out that sort of framing in his interview with USA Today. I think anti-Semitism is now, at least in the eyes of a lot of people, no longer seen as a big deal at all. I think this bigotry has exploded, and a big part of that is because anti-Semitism has been so cynically deployed and weaponized against all criticisms of Israel, accelerated in the last 3 years by institutions like the ADL. That to me, that sounds like a really reasonable response. I would love to see Hasan kind of hash this out with Greenblatt, but apparently that's not going to happen. Cenk, what's your take on this?
Yeah, so the preconditions are hilarious. I'll get back to that. I'll get back to Ben Shapiro. But first, we've got a poll on this. I'm curious what you guys think. Vote on TYT.com. What do you think charges of anti-Semitism against Israel's critics? What do you think about them? A, legitimate and concerning. B, largely BS, okay? So we're not asking you if any anti-Semitism exists, that's obvious. Of course, some do. We're asking when it's regarding criticism of Israel, are people genuinely concerned? Oh, I got so worried about anti-Semitism, or are they using it cynically to try to defend Israel? So I think the answer is clear, but I'm curious what you guys think. All right, now he says, well, I'll agree to sit down with Hasan Piker as long as he agrees ahead of time that I'm right, that Zionism is awesome. Well, that would defeat the whole point of the conversation / debate. Yeah, if you agree that I'm going to win the debate, then I'll have a debate with you. That's not really how things work, okay? He says, now he has to legitimize Zionism. Why does anybody have to legitimize Zionism? It's like the entitlement complex of genocide supporters like Jonathan Greenblatt is amazing. So they're like, no, you have to agree with me, otherwise I'm gonna say you're gonna kill all the Jews. Yeah, that's because you're a demagogue. And so Greenblatt doesn't mind that Israel murdered 23,000 Palestinian children. He's, never talks about that, but he says, oh my God, if you criticize Israel, then you must want to kill people. But no, we're for peace. We're not in favor of killing anyone. He, on the other hand, says, 76,000 dead Palestinians, who cares? They had it coming. 23,000 dead kids, they had it coming. The Palestinians, in the famous words of Golda Meir, will never forgive the Palestinians for making us kill their children. And that's the mindset of a Jonathan Greenblatt. He thinks, well, of course we had to murder your children. You see how violent you are. No, Jonathan, I see the massive violence, the genocide, the slaughter that you're in favor of. So now let's talk about the trick that they do. They say, now if you say that Israel doesn't have a right to exist, well, okay, wait, that's a super vague phrase. First of all, Israel does exist, and it's in absolutely no danger of not existing. It has nuclear weapons, it has Iron Dome, it has a giant military. This is an absurd conversation. It's like saying, France has a right to exist. France already exists. It's a moot point. It's totally irrelevant. Why are we even having a conversation about whether France or China or India or Israel should exist? They already do, right? But then they go, by the way, you know what doesn't exist? Palestine. So every anchor that goes along with this nonsense, like Casey Hunt, we will get to later in the show, but really every cable news anchor, the correct question is, does Palestine have a right to exist? Because it doesn't exist. Anyone with any intelligence at all would understand that's the obviously pertinent question. But since they're all liars and propagandists for Israel, they're like, ignore the Palestinians. Slaughter their children, who cares? Oh my God, anti-Semitism. I'm so worried about Israeli feelings. But their kids are dead. Shut up about their kids. Their feelings, are you okay? As you were slaughtering children, I was so concerned about your feelings, and that's what the whole country should be worried about, your feelings. No, I don't care about Israeli feelings. And that doesn't mean that you want, then the very last part of it is they go, okay, now you have to say, if you say Israel, you have to give like basically a loyalty oath to Israel. Zionism is legitimate, Zionism is great. Israel is the country that most needs to exist. But if you don't say that, that means you want to kill all the Jews. Oh, come on. No, it doesn't mean that at all. And you think Jonathan Greenblatt or Ben Shapiro think that it means that? Of course they don't believe that. They're lying to you on purpose because they want you to serve their beloved Israel. It is such an obvious sophistry. What a child's trick. But good news is, since all of the national media is on their side, they go, I don't see it. You're saying, because you don't believe in Zionism equals want to murder all the Jews, I will write it down like a moron, like apparently Will Carlos did. So Will Carlos, what is this garbage about anti-Semitism? No, if there's real anti-Semitism in the world, by the way, one of the biggest anti-Semites is Jonathan Greenblatt. He doesn't care about the Palestinians. The Palestinians and Arabs are also Semites. They're Muslim Semites. That anti-Semitism he thinks is awesome. He's like, hate the Arabs. Let us murder their Palestinian kids, right? That's what you look like, Jonathan. You're disgusting genocide enabler, genocide supporter, terrorist supporter, terrorist sympathizer. That's what Jonathan Greenblatt is. That's what Ben Shapiro is, pretending that they care about bigotry. What a joke as they celebrate the deaths of tens of thousands of innocent people. They're the ones celebrating murder, endless series of murder of Palestinian children. But they say, but we're so concerned about Zionism, and you all have to bow down to these Zionists? You want me to bow down to a genocidal country? No, we're not gonna do that. Look, so since almost all of media lies on behalf of Israel, let me tell you the truth about our positions. And by the way, Ben Shapiro has said the same lie about me. Cenk Uygur doesn't agree with what Israel is doing, so he wants to kill all the Jews. That's an insane thing to say. Look, all right, I don't believe in lawfare, but these are, and I know they do. They love lawfare, right? But if anyone brings this up, I would love to go to Discovery. I would love to see if they have had any communications with foreign governments. I would love to see that, okay? So the reality, I'll tell you the truth. We are for peace. We want a safe and secure Israel and a safe and secure Palestine. We want them to both be independent, have all the rights in the world. We don't want any Jewish people killed. We don't want any Israelis killed. We don't want any Palestinians killed. We are for equality and for justice. We would like to stop a vicious, disgusting genocide by the Israelis. I'm not in favor of Hamas or Hezbollah killing innocent civilians in Israel. I'm not in favor of the IDF killing 100 times the innocent civilians in Lebanon, in Iran, in West Bank, in Gaza Strip. But Jonathan Greenblatt and Ben Shapiro love that kind of slaughter because it's for their beloved Zionist project of Israel. So don't tell me you don't love it as you defend it and are in favor of it and say that anyone who's opposed to that genocide is an anti-Semite, and you do all dirty, disgusting tricks, try to convince people that their lives are in danger. Not just tricks against us, but tricks against Jewish Americans to try to manipulate them. Oh, you're all gonna die. Oh, Hasan and Cenk and all the Arabs and Muslims and Turks and Persians, they're all evil savages and terrorists. They're gonna kill you all. You better give everything to Israel. Give all your money to Israel. And I'm not talking about America, I'm talking about Jewish Americans. He's like, Jewish Americans, you're all gonna die. You better give all your money to Israel. Wait, I thought you were supposed to protect Jewish Americans. Why are you purposely lying to them? And by the way, a lot of people believe that, and it scares the hell out of them. And they're now panicked and worried that they're all gonna die any second now. And so they callously use things like the Holocaust and the pogroms, etc., to get their own supporters, and they target them with Israeli propaganda and go, you better be afraid for your life. Give me your money. Give it to Israel wants it, okay? No, you Jewish Americans shouldn't listen to that. Good news, they're not. It's another thing that Shapiro, Greenblatt, and all the others hide from you. 63% of Jewish Americans have the same exact opinion as I do. Against the Netanyahu government, we're for peace with two independent states. Only a third of Jewish Americans support the disgusting Netanyahu government. But Greenblatt, who's a huge anti-Semite, smears all other Jews by saying, yes, all Jews love Israel and love their genocide and they love the slaughter and the wars and the dead children. No, they don't. No, they don't. You're lying. You don't represent Jewish people. You represent the zealots and the lunatics that are running the current Israeli government that 2/3 of Jewish Americans are against. But Greenblatt lies every single day to help the terrorist state of Israel. All right, I think I was pretty clear on that, Elliot.
I think so. I also just want to highlight too what you said about it being a trick, because you said that a couple times, and I think it's correct. Like, I think when for them, like they've run completely out of any kind of moral high ground, so they have to resort to rhetorical tricks, and that's what that is. Like, when you're going, does a state have a right to exist? We made all this up. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, who has a right to exist are human beings, and that actually exists. Now, states exist because we decided that they exist. So that is something that changes and has changed all throughout the course of history. So when they're doing this kind of thing, it feels like kind of like what Matt Walsh, when he's like, what is a woman? It's a rhetorical trick because they don't have any moral high ground to stand on anymore. And so they have to resort to this kind of stuff. So it's incredibly gross.
Yeah, and they do all of that lying and deceit on behalf of Israel so that they can continue land expansion in West Bank, Gaza Strip, and Lebanon. We have eyes and ears, Jonathan. You could lie all day long, and that's all you ever do is lie, lie, lie. Pretend that you're running an organization against bigotry when you love bigotry against Muslims and Arabs, and you celebrate it, and in fact, you demand it. But we see Israel is in Lebanon. Lebanon is not in Israel. Israel just took 70% of Gaza and is bragging about it. We killed them and took 70% of their land. That's what Netanyahu is saying. But you love that fascist. You love him. And one day, Jonathan Greenblatt and Ben Shapiro and Laura Loomer and Mark Levin are all going to be in a museum somewhere. These were the Goebbels of our time. These were the people who tried professionally to get you to agree to a genocide and to fund a genocide. And they all made up a lot of excuses for why a genocide was such a great idea, just because, well, they were just Arabs and Muslims we were murdering. It's after your people went through what they went through, all the pain and the suffering and these exact things, then you turn around and you help do it to others. You should be embarrassed and live in shame the rest of your life. You're going to a museum one day as one of the worst genocide enablers of our lifetimes.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.